Hey, come on, come on. What? Here we go, here we go, here we go now. Let's chit chat, this is the show now. Come on. Bad black mama's gonna let you know now. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Come on. Let's chit chat, let's chit chat, let's chit chat, sis. Hey, what's up? Let's chit chat, let's chit chat, let's chit chat, sis. Hey.
How are you beautiful ladies doing today?
I'm
Doing good.
doing well, doing well.
We rolling into the warm weather and,
Finally.
warm weather makes people happy besides me, but, warm weather is, it's a blessing. You know what I mean? It's definitely a blessing. We didn't really have much of a winter, and I live in the Northeast, and it was shocking that we had 0.1% snow. That never
Oh.
happens. I think we
Wow.
need to pay attention to what is going on because that's a rarity. But I like snow, but we gotta get ready for mosquitoes, bees,
Yes, yes.
pollen, all that. I know you already got pollen down there. We just starting to
Very much so. A lot of pollen
a
falling.
lot. We're getting it, but they'll be here probably by next week with this heat. But this is not my episode. This is Keisha's episode. So Keisha, take over.
Well, we like to thank again Miss Tiara Griffin for coming and gracing us with her presence today. She has been
Yes.
with us talking about dating and daddy issues, and we are so delighted to have her today to talk about mommy issues. She is a life coach. She is an author. She is a dynamic speaker. She is God's child, and we are just so happy to have her. So today, again, we're going to be talking about mommy issues. And Tiara, how did you even get started with this? What made you delve into this topic of mommy issues?
My
Give
own
us a little
personal
background.
life. My own personal life. It was
Okay.
really focused on daddy issues, but then I was in a business training because we all know that God is not departmentalized. He's not just like, we're going to talk about business. We're going to talk about business. We're going to talk about church. We're going to talk about church. He be in through all the house, all the rooms, all the doors. So I was in a business training, and one of the ladies, she started prophesying over me. And she said, when you start dealing with that one issue, she said, your ministry is going to go crazy. And I was like, what issue? I've already been in counseling for my daddy issue. Like, I'm fine. And I always had people ask me about mommy issues. But if you let me tell the story, I don't have no mommy issues. I don't got no issues with my mother. My mother is perfect. She is great. She did all that she could have ever done for us. She was a single mother. Like, I just really started to make a lot of justifications for all the things that I knew probably weren't the best, but didn't have understanding of it. So I kept praying, like, God, what is she talking about? Like, if it was you, then, reveal it to me. And he says, go back to counseling. So I went to counseling and I was like, okay, I'm back on the couch. And I started talking about my daddy, of course, because maybe there's something still lingering with my dad. And the lady just started talking about my mom. And I was like, nah, like, we're not talking about her. Like, she doesn't do with this conversation, leave my mother out of it. Like, no. But then she started asking me questions. And I just felt the cry coming because one thing that I realized is the present parent usually causes the most damage.
Ooh.
Even though we don't want to admit it.
Woo! I don't know if I'm ready for you today, Tiara, but go ahead.
Well, listen, how did you, once you came to that realization, how did you start the conversation with your mom? I know that had to be very, maybe, difficult.
Well, it just depends on the mother. But one thing that I learned in counseling is you don't confront it with your mother, you confront it within yourself. So I didn't need to go talk to my mother about anything because sometimes a lot of moms aren't ready to receive that. They're not able to see what you see. And a lot of times we may go to our parents to seek that validation. Like, this is what you did to me. Like, say that you did this so that I can finally feel better. And a lot of moms aren't in that headspace, that mind space. Of course, if your mother felt like she did everything that she could possibly do, she's automatically defensive. So how are you going to get anything from somebody that's defensive? So you have to confront it within yourself. And but my mom was cool enough. She had gone through her own levels of counseling. So she started making jokes of it. And she was like, child, I was not the best. So it was easy for my mother to just helped me to validate, like, okay, I wasn't tripping. This was my experience. This was how I felt, even if you don't agree with it. And I had a different reality with my dad. He was just like, that didn't happen. Like, no. But my mom was like, yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Yeah. And I was like, well, that was good. But I'm still, even like now, with healing, there's so many different levels and layers. So I started seeing it like in my friendships with women. I started seeing it with my boss. That's when it really came to light. I was in counseling, then I was sitting with my boss, and I was like, I felt myself go back to like a child. And I was like combating with her in the way that I wish I could have spoken to my mother, because she gave me all mommy vibes. And when you already are dealing with a wound, I mean, everything that this lady did was triggering to me. And I realized it wasn't her. It was something within me that I needed to confront. So if you don't confront it, it's going to end up showing all spheres of your life. So confront it within yourself. Sometimes you can't go to mom, but if you do not confront it, it's going to come out in every relationship that you have. Literally.
I think I have like mommy issues with, of course, myself, and of course, I think I don't want to say it stems from my mom, but I think it does stem a little bit from my mom, because me and my mom, we had like this relationship where my mom was, when I was a child, I just looked at her as, this superhero, to be honest, and my mom was the type that, she was very nurturing, what I mean? She was very nurturing, but she was very stern and firm about what she wanted, you to do. It was no wiggle room, what I mean? And I was the same way with my children. It's just that we were brought up in a different time. Like, you just don't speak to your mom in a way that to let that, like, mom, you're really hurting my feelings, like, mom, I have something to say, so on and so on. But kids today, oh, they're going to put you on Front Street, what I
I
mean?
think there has to be a balance even with that, because according to like research and what I'm realizing now, parents should have had that open door for you to say, hey, like, that really hurt my feelings. Like, I feel this type of way. I think that this generation has gone too far, because what they're trying to do now is they're trying to get their footing. They're trying to get their understanding. They just know this is how they felt. But and of course, you don't want to blame your mother, but if we're going to get any level of healing, I can't make excuses for what my experience was. So, I was just talking to my friend yesterday, and even with my relationship with God, I realized that when I do something wrong, I don't want to come to him and tell him. But that's also because I did not have that place to come into my mother and tell her, hey, I made a mistake and I need help. And if mothers are supposed to nurture, comfort, and teach, and I don't give her that space to, because I don't feel safe enough to come and let her know, hey, I made a mistake, or hey, you hurt my feelings, or this is how I'm feeling. A lot of the things that I took on was a very independent personality. Like, I don't need anybody. And if things are going on, I'm suppressing. So suppression was a really big thing, because if I can't express to my mother, who is supposed to be this landing place that's soft enough, I'm going to start internalizing everything. I take everything personally. I'm overly offended by every single thing. I feel, because I wasn't able to speak up, I was really repressed. And when I went to my boss and she would say certain things, I was like a word vomit. Everything was coming out like, no, you're not going to talk to me like that. It just was a very aggressive, because is what was happening in that moment did not equal my response, but I wasn't responding from the Tiara that was 28 or 29 or 30. I was responding from that 14-year-old girl who had something to say, but my mom told me, be quiet, like, because I said so. That's the end of the discussion.
Yeah.
We're not doing anything else. You're not going. And there was no room for communication. So now I get into relationships and I don't know how to communicate, or I don't know how to resolve conflict. It all stems from our childhood. So then there's
I wish I would have known this.
Yes, I do too.
Oldest 27 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying I didn't know it, but and Keisha, you probably can relate to this. You the things that your parents did that you can identify and you say, I'm definitely not doing that with my kids, you know what I mean? But if you actually think about it, you end up doing it anyway.
Yeah.
You end up doing it anyway. I think the biggest problem I had, and Tiara, you can jump in it. I wanted to steer the ship for my kids. I didn't want to give them
Me too.
choices because I'm like, I see the road. I see what's going to happen. If you follow what I tell you,
Exactly.
it's not going to
Mm,
happen to you.
exactly.
Yeah,
So that caused a
that's
lot of
that
nice fear.
overprotection that doesn't
Yes.
allow the children to make their own decisions.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I lived in regret a lot because all the things that I was doing was because my mom said not to do it. I didn't have my own experiences. And I remember even being like a kid, maybe like middle school, I was like, Mom, just trust what you taught me. Just trust that what you already instilled. Just let me live my life. And I just found myself because of that, always seeking permission, always going back to mom. Like I didn't trust myself. It's basically the issue when it comes to overprotective parents. I don't have a level of trust for myself. So when I'm going out here trying to make decisions, I don't trust the decisions that I am able to make. And I always have to reference back like, Mom, is this a good idea? Auntie, is this a good idea? Am I doing something wrong? Is something that you don't like? And I just didn't have my own mind. And another issue that my counselor brought up in counseling was a lot of Black women are going to be single because of mother wounds because they don't know how to individuate. Meaning, I had lack of boundaries when it came to my mother. Not that she was doing anything wrong, but every time she would call, I would answer. Whenever the family was having something, I was always there. I always overextended myself in these areas. And not saying that that is wrong, but it's when it comes at the expense of me. I learned to do everything at the expense of myself. I didn't know who I was outside of my mother. I didn't know who I was outside of my mother's decisions and what decisions she would make for me. And that just ends up stifling you. And here I am wanting to be in a relationship with an emotionally available man, but I'm emotionally unavailable to him. Because if my family calls, I'm running. If they need something, I'm going. If I'm in bed, I'm just automatically going because I didn't know who I was outside of the framework that I had been raised in, pretty much.
So, you went back to counseling for your mom issues. How is your relationship now?
Good. There's still some things that happens, and I'm like, okay, you gotta like in the moment, you gotta apply everything that you have learned in order to make this healthy. Because one thing that my counselor said, she was like, it's a toxic relationship. And all I heard was my mother was toxic. Oh, it was not working for me. I was like, how dare you say something like that? She was like, I didn't say that your mother was toxic. I said that the relationship can be toxic because she said there's a difference between healthy and unhealthy ways to relate, and you relate in a lot of unhealthy ways. So a couple of years ago, we were going out of town after like counseling, and my mom was just being, how can I describe it? She just was not letting me get a word in. This is what I'm saying. Now, at this point, I'm like late 20s. Like, it was like, Mom, today it is not going down like that. Like, you don't have to talk to me like that. Like, let's figure out another way. But that was one incident. But today it's better because I know, okay, this is what's happening. She's not being cruel. She's not doing this. There's a lot of things that she still has to work within herself. And a lot of instances, I am further along in my healing than my mother because she's just like starting her journey. So it's almost like up to me to redirect certain things, like because I'm aware of what's really happening. Before I wasn't aware of what's happening. I just thought, you have those thoughts like, she doesn't love me. Like, I need her approval. Now she's criticizing me. Like, there must be something wrong with me. I no longer take a personal approach to it. I'm like, this isn't about.
So how do you build those healthy boundaries?
What
What do you say?
Establishing them within yourself first. Like, one thing I had to do was not say, hey, I'm not going to do this or I'm not going to do that. What am I going to do for myself? Learning to, like, number one, put your own needs first. You may have to take a season of selfish and a season of self-love. And I started like, what does Tiara want to do in the mornings before I turn on my phone to make myself available to the world and everybody else? What do I want to do? And one thing I like to do in the morning is pray. I like to journal. And I added like a self-care routine and just allowing myself to put my needs first, because a lot of times with mothers or parents, we tend to, again, do things at the expense of ourselves. We end up losing ourselves in our relationships with our parents because I can't speak up for myself, because I can't do this. I sacrificed a lot of me. So now learning how to, Tiara, what do you need? Like, what are you really feeling in this moment, and being able to articulate that in a way that it is receptive. Not that I'm right, but that it's received. So really
Sandy,
those boundaries within yourself first, not, my mom calls me, I'm not coming. No, just making sure that and even to add to that, like, one thing that I used to do when I would say no, that I didn't want to do something, right? I would say no, hang up the phone, but then all of the emotions was as if I did it. Like, I'm saying, why she call me? Like, why would she want me to do that? Like, how come I gotta be the one? Because as a child, I was overparented. Like, I became a parent to my siblings because my mom was a single mother. So just like all that pressure, and I'm still responding as if I did it. My counselor was like, well, if you're gonna respond like you did it, you might as well have just done it, because you are and you're allowing that event to live rent free in your head. You're allowing it to affect every emotions. You didn't even do it. Just be able to say no and just leave it like that. Because another thing that I learned through relationships is mothers are supposed to teach you about boundaries. And a lot of moms did not have boundaries with relationships with their children. It was a lack of boundaries. So lack of boundaries is a mother issue. I don't understand, not necessarily that, but I was talking to my friends and we were having a conversation, and every single one of us was like, yeah, my mom didn't teach me boundaries. Like, my mom would do this with guys and da 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 da. And we began to pick up those traits. And I was taught to disregard my boundaries to make everybody else happy.
I really believe that. What you just said, that moms help their children know what boundaries are. I really, really, really believe that. And
So I went on a tangent. I was trying to make sure I got to the point, but that was like making sure that for myself, I'm not people pleasing and still sacrificing myself.
Right there.
Putting the boundaries in place. I love you, but that doesn't mean that I have to let you run all over me. That doesn't mean that I have to do everything that you say. Like, I'm an individual now. I'm an adult now. This is my life now. And just, I can come to you for support, but I don't really need that same level of relationship that I once did when I was a child. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I think it creates
so what?
rebellious too. When
Yeah,
you
yes,
don't.
it does.
I
So
was really
what
rebellious, so yes.
what should a parent do? Say, for instance, you're coming, someone is coming to their mom, and they're going to address some past hurts. What should the parent do? For parents that's listening, what is the first thing? What do you suggest that a parent do when a child is coming to them?
Listen,
And
don't be defensive. It's going to hurt. It's going to feel like, and it's going to feel like you're being betrayed. Like, my child is telling me these things. You can't have that perspective, because you don't want to invalidate your child's experience. Just because you fell and you hit your right knee and it didn't hurt, but I fell and hit my right knee and it does hurt, you can't get mad at me when I say ouch. I can't tell you that your experience isn't real. And we don't want to talk about mother because we are in denial a lot of the times of what actually happened. But a lot of moms feel betrayed. How dare you? What do you mean?
After all the sacrifices I made for you,
yeah, I was in labor, but that's just, ma'am, I didn't ask to be born. I didn't ask for you to be in labor that long. It wasn't me. It wasn't my fault. And then it becomes a fault finding experience rather than just saying, you know what? I can see that. I can see how that was your experience, because one thing, a child is not going to keep coming to a parent that makes them feel less than, that makes them feel belittled, that makes them feel like I'm doing something wrong. I don't want to hurt my mom. I don't want to have this conversation. But in order for us to move forward, sometimes the conversation is necessary. So I would just say, listen, be emotionally available. Be able to see, I can see that. Even if you don't understand that, just don't go on the attack, because once you do that, that door that you wanted open is slammed shut. You're not getting through that door again, because what your child is going to do, I'm going to self-preserve from here on out. I'm going to preserve myself. I am not going to get hurt. I'm not going to let you hurt me like that again. And the relationship door is closed. And when you try to come in, you're going to try to break this door down, but that child has to trust you again.
And that is true, because
so boundaries, trust, communication,
like
listening.
I think that as parents, especially as moms, I think we do take that extra gap to say that our children will always trust us. And I think that's totally not true. You know what I mean? At all. I used to say that I thought that my kids, somebody gave them some kind of access card when they turn 18 so they can come back and say, I remember, that's the favorite line. I remember when you, and
Yeah.
automatically you get on the defense. You're like, okay, because just like Keisha said, all this stuff I did and sacrificed for you, and you come to talk about, I remember when you know what I mean? And I had to learn, Tiara. I had to learn. And let me tell you, it was a painful lesson.
Yeah.
That when I say painful, because we all are in this spirit of God.
Kim, you're not the only one.
Yeah, you have to humble
Lessons learned
yourself.
here.
Yeah, you have to humble yourself. Tears will come along with
Mhm.
it. And you have to accept it. You know what I mean? You have to
Mhm.
accept it.
It's shame and also embarrassment. And that's and the child who's going through the process has to understand she may be embarrassed because when we do something wrong or we hurt somebody, like I did that, like you're telling me that I could have done something like that to you. And it's like, it's okay. It doesn't, one thing I had to learn, it doesn't make you a bad person. You are a
Right.
great mother. You did everything that you were able to do with what you had. You were trained this way, you were raised this way. And unfortunately, it wasn't your fault either. But healing it is our responsibility. And if we want to heal something, we got to be honest. I'm not saying be brutally honest. I'm not saying be nasty. I'm just saying, understand in this moment, I'm not attacking you. I want to build with you. I'm not trying to tear you down because there's some things that my mom can say back to me. You did this. You're absolutely right.
Mhm.
I did. I was responding to you, but the mom just has to say, you know what? Let me just hear you out. Don't say nothing. Just let me hear you out. You go process that with the Lord and you come back. But we as women, I got a response. I got a defense. I gotta prove this. I gotta do this. And then you overcompensate. But it's the issue of proving. And I have that issue a lot too. I gotta prove to you that I'm not who you think I am.
Yeah.
To prove to you that I am this. I have to prove to you that I'm proved you I'm worthy of love. I have to prove to you that I'm this. And it's just when we get into that state of proving, your child is saying, hey mom, I feel like this. Now you got to prove I was a good mother because I did X, Y, and Z. I kept the lights on. This isn't a matter of proving. I'm trying to be vulnerable. And where there is no vulnerability, there can't be any healing. You won't see it from the side because you're not vulnerable enough to just, like you said, humble yourself and say, I'm just going to listen.
Yeah.
I'm just going to listen.
I learned it very painfully.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, very painfully. Like it's still a work in progress. Let me tell you, it's a work in progress. But what I haven't done is, and that I am working on, is the relationship with my own mother. You know what I mean? My mom is up in age. So I handle it very, carefully because I wouldn't want my mom. My mom is 84. You know what I mean? I wouldn't want my mom to like feel broken because of things that I felt like. I feel like if I have missed that gap, even though I have the right to express to her, I feel like I do it carefully now, Tiara. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Things
Yeah.
that she proceeds forward and she does to me, like now that I'm not in agreement with, I make sure I say it to her, and it has made life a lot better. I don't come in an attacking way. I be like, "Ma, I'm an old lady too. You know, you can't, I can't be the little kid anymore. I'm an old lady
Yeah.
just like you." And she'd be like, "Okay, baby, I know what you mean. But I do it gently with her
Yeah.
because I think it's a hard experience. Not that the daddy issues, because we are women, what I mean? We are nurturers, we are comforters, we are healers, what I mean? We do all these things. And I'm not saying the dad don't do this, but a mom has her place. And
Yeah.
I think when you think that chain has been broken, it's really hard to figure out which way to go. Like it took me a long time to even accept what mainly my daughter was telling me, that she couldn't have a voice. And when I finally like let it sink in, I was devastated. Like, oh my God, I've like almost taken a chunk of her life. Well, yeah, she's very young. She could, life will go on the way God's perspective for her to be. But
Yeah.
what my part was, Tiara, I was like, everything I thought I was doing, I was missing a whole lot.
Same here. And you know what? I think sometimes we do it with the oldest, because I know my oldest child is like, I got to make decisions. You don't know what to do. Just follow, like you said, just follow my path, and I'm gonna just I know the way. I see the danger. I see the warning lights. Just do what I say do, and your life, your road is going to be easier. But then when you find out that you weren't doing the best that you could, well, you did the best you could, but you weren't doing what that child needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very hurtful, very painful. But I gotta tell a funny story with me and my mom, and we get along great. But if we find ourselves disagreeing, we'll say, you know what, we've been together too many days now, and it's time for us to separate. One day we were in a store, a quick funny story, and so I don't know. She likes to get like we would find people things, and if I pick up something, she wanted to pick up the same thing. I was like, Mom, that's driving me crazy. No, you go get something else. I got this. Mom, you drive me crazy. So we got to the register. She said, I want to go to a different register because I'm not agreeing with her today. We don't like each other today. And I was like, go ahead, go to the next one. And the lady was looking at us. I said, we're fine. We're really fine. She just got to go to the next register. I'm not listening to that today. I'm going over here. But we always sat back and was like, okay, we done been together too long. It's time for us to go.
But that's good that
And
y'all like
sometimes you have to
y'all
do that.
have that relationship. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That's really good. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I feel like, but like when Kim said, like I didn't feel like I had a voice, and I was the oldest too. I felt like I literally, and that's why later on in life, when I started to become aware of this, I had a big voice. I have a lot to say. I'm letting everybody have it at this point because I'm trying to figure it out. But I didn't have a voice growing up at all.
yeah,
Child.
I'll admit, like when my
Me too.
daughter, you're not doing that. You're not going to
And
do this.
And also, when I came to my mom, I may not remember the exact moment, but I feel like when I came to her for the first time to even lay my burdens down or to even come and let her know something, she probably did not respond right. And then I probably tried it again. She probably didn't respond right. So after a while, I knew I couldn't come to my mom. I literally tried to write my mom a letter. She just was so hard because my mom is like, at the time, she was just overly masculine. She got some masculine traits now, but she just was over this, like, she was not feminine. She was just like not soft at all.
And I can agree. I can go because I'm not that way either. I wasn't that way with my kids. We grew up in a different generation when they
Yeah.
told us something, you had to suck it up.
Yeah.
So when we had our kids, which are in your age range, it's like, look, I'm telling you, let's get it together. And we don't have time for feelings. We got time to do and action. And to our detriment for your generation, it was the wrong thing. But that's how we were. We didn't have time. Nobody was soft with us. You had to do. It's like, hey, this is it.
Go on over there and sit down.
And
that's it. Like mom, and I was, and then it didn't help that God made me inquisitive. I asked a lot of questions. My mom some of my questions. She'd be like, Mom, why do I have to go over there? But if we had those conversations, I would have had more understanding. Why can't I have sex? What's so bad about it? And that's where the rebellion comes in. Just don't do it.
Yep.
Why? But I feel like I try to talk to my mom. She's like, come talk to me later. Then I'll be in a better headspace. I come, she's still telling me to be quiet. I still can't say nothing or express myself. I wrote her a letter one time. She did not read my letter. It was just like, this is not working out. But because of that, I didn't have that place to really just talk to somebody. And I say this a lot, rules without relationship leads to rebellion. You want to tell me what to do, what not to do, but I don't trust you enough to feel safe. Like I had to tell my boss, I don't trust you. I know it may not have been the right thing to do, but I'm telling you, the way that you're responding to me creates a level of hostility, and I'm not really trusting your direction. I don't trust what you're saying. I don't think that you have my best interest at heart. So, but again, if you don't deal with it, you end up coming back to a earlier age. Like both of you are with your mom. If not careful, your childhood will show your childhood self that was unable to handle that situation at that age is now speak up for me now. Say what I'm feeling now. Talk about it now, kind of thing. But because I didn't have that relationship, I feel like she closed the door so many times, and then you try to tell me what to do. Why? What do you, no, I don't want to do that. I think that my way is best.
And isn't it the whole goal that, everybody's life experience is their own? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
No, I think we just clarifying for people listening, we're not saying that we should at any point step away from our child and be like, okay, no guidance because I want you to do what you want to do so you can feel free, you know what I mean, and do
Yeah.
whatever. But at a certain point, their creativity can be stifled because of that. I remember my daughter told me she wanted to be in ROTC. I was like, no, you're not going there. You're going to college. And that's where because you need to get an education. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, she used to tell me how she used to love to see
Same thing,
kids in
Kim.
high school with the uniforms on and stuff like that. No, you're not doing that. You know what I mean? And now when
Yeah.
I think about it, like, and you know, God doesn't want us to live in regret. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now I think about it, I think about what could have been her direction that I
Or what
stopped.
she has to now repeat and go back and do because
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And now I want to get her out of the mindset of always feeling like she has to get my acceptance to move forward because you're grown. You got to do what's going to do for you. Even if
Yeah.
you fall, you'll get back up. You know what I mean? Because you were built that way. But this is sometimes the creation that you create because you just create the environment of enabling. You know what I mean? You create the environment of
Codependent relationships.
yeah,
Yes. I
yeah.
don't know who I am outside of you. And
Right.
that's where a
And
lot of
other
us
people
are.
come in their lives and they don't know how to deal with people issues. You know what I mean? None of like
Yes.
you said with your boss, like I think about a lot of times I had bosses that I just did not, care
Yeah.
for.
Yeah.
It stemmed from that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I would lash out, oh, you can't tell me this and this like what is wrong?
Yeah.
But it goes full
Now what's
circle.
wrong with her? What's wrong with you? It's me. It's definitely a me thing. And when I realized that things still were a little topsy turvy, but I realized I am in control of this. I am creating
Absolutely.
this atmosphere here because I'm not. Another thing that I always say is when you've been healed, you don't hear right. So because I'm broken, when you're telling me something, whatever you're saying, because there's so many spikes, it's being shredded up in the process. So when it gets to me,
Right.
I'm like, excuse me, you said what? I know. And the lady was like, I just said the sky was blue. I mean, that's all I said. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? But
What you
because I
hearing? I
am
like
healed, I don't hear it right. I don't filter it right. And I'm realizing that I'm putting that template on a lot of things. Hold on. Let me hear this correctly. What are you saying to me? Because if I don't have that understanding, I'm going off because I'm triggered. I'm highly triggered in this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Keisha?
Well, we have definitely enjoyed you. This has been a great episode,
Great.
mommy issues, and I hope that our listening audience learned something. And I'm going to go back to something that you said, that quote, rules without relationship equals to rebellion.
That was
Equals
on
to
point.
rebellion. And so I'm asking all parents that's listening to this episode to have a listening ear to their child and let them have a voice so that possibly you won't have the missteps that we have had and have a better relationship, because it's all about healing and having good relationships.
Yeah.
That's
Can
it.
I
That's
add to
it.
that? Because rules without relationship equals rebellion. Would you rather them follow the rules, or would you rather them have the relationship with you? And that goes to even, I'm always going to bring God into it. Would I rather God just give me a list of do's and don'ts? That's religion. Or would I rather the relationship with my father? As a mother, I pray that for me and the women that are listening that aren't mothers yet, that we would value the relationship over the rules. Because if they don't follow the rules, we still have to have the relationship. Am I still going to feel loved? Am I going to still feel like I can come to you? Am I still going to feel like you're there for me? Am I still going to feel like you're emotionally available? Like you said, Kim, if my daughter makes a mistake, let her know you can be resilient. If you fall, you're going to get back up, and I'm going to be here for you. But when parents are so focused on the rules, I feel like if I break the rules, will you still love me? We have to figure out what's more important. Am I going to value my relationship with my child over the fact that she does right, there's this box, and we start living with this performance-based mentality. I was very perfect because I didn't want to get in trouble. I didn't want to make any mistakes because I was so focused on the rules that I didn't have like the love, the connection, because we were all innately born for connection. We were all innately born for relationship. And when that relationship is broken and all you have is rules, that's a dictatorship. There's no connection in that. And God made us for a relationship. But because of man-made rules and because I don't have control, I have to control this situation, I begin to just shoot out things. But I want to leave with value the relationship more, because the relationship is going to last way beyond the rules, because rules change. People do things, people change, people evolve. But if I want anything more than anything, I wish I would have had the relationship with my mother rather than being remembered or being reminded of, I couldn't do this and I couldn't go here and I couldn't do this and I couldn't do that. I mean, I would get tired of that too. Like, ma'am, I am over your rules, but let me sit on your lap. Let me hug you. Hold me. I need you. That's more important than anything that you could ever give your child in this world.
Amen. God.
Well said. Well said.
Well said.
So
Well,
can you tell the listener audience all of your platforms and where they can reach you and all about what you're doing?
Yes, so you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. YouTube, some old videos. I'm going to get my life together. The Lord told me to start a podcast. I'm coming. But I am on those social media platforms at Tiara, Teaire, Griffin, Griffin. I do one-on-one, but I'm definitely more so a very relational person. So I have a group on Facebook. You can find me there at Hey Heal Her. I think it's from daddy issues to dating differently. I am the dating differently coach. I help you date differently by healing your childhood trauma, the things that you don't know are there. So that is what I do. That's where I can be found. Find me so we can get you healed.
find Tiara. Find Tiara.
Live your best life.
Well, thank you, Keisha, again for bringing Tiara. And Tiara, thank you.
Thank
This
you.
was an awesome episode. And as I always will say, please come back, because you are a wealth of knowledge. And, this episode is going to blow up just like daddy issues blew up. And we really appreciate you. So we'll dig into our little mind of what you can, go over next with us, because you guide us. And I look at you, I'm like, okay, you're like around my child's age. And you know what I mean? Like, you got it together. You got it together. And
no.
I think that when people listen to you, Tiara, they never hear like someone pointing and saying, you know what I mean? It's just experience and love and well wishes for people to live their best life. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And that's very impressive. So again,
Thank
please
you.
come back. And even if you think of a topic that you want to get, out there, let us know. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Please do.
All right. So join us every Wednesday when we bring you a new episode. I know y'all be waiting for this episode, but it'll come really soon. Bring a new episode. Join us on our social media pages: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. So joining me today is
Keisha.
And Tiara.
And of course, I'm your girl, Kimmy. Have a great week on purpose, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Take care.
Hi.